So we're back into Digimaps, and we got our location plan, which we've saved there, but we got it as a PDF, and that doesn't really allow us to change it in any way or add anything to it other than going through Photoshop or anything like that. What we want to do is to download our map as part of an AutoCAD file. Now that will help us in essentially working in this environment on AutoCAD when we're designing our building, and also when we're exporting a building, we can even add our building onto the site. You could add your building if you go into the drawings and you just import a specific file that you can add there, but it's much easier if we just download it. Now, how do we do that? How do we download this map? Well, we have to go into the use this area in data download. So if we press on that, instead of Rome, it takes us to OS data download. So if we go, if we are to go back into the home page and we go into Ordnance Survey, if you press on data download, that's what it will go, right? It will go straight to data download. But let's go back to this. It even highlights the site, the area that you've previously printed out, right? So that it's already in the system. You don't even have to do it. But let's say we want to get an even bigger area. How do we do that? Well, we have to draw a rectangle to select our area of interest. Well, let's make it a little bit bigger, starting from there to here, right? We want to include more information. And then we need to select what type of map we want from that area. What type of map do we want? Again, you can use the coordinates to zoom into anywhere you want, and so on and so forth. But if we go into the OS master map, the basic one we will be using is the topography map. It even tells you 2.42 out of 100 kilometers square. That's the area of the map that you're downloading. The maximum you can download is 100 meters square. We only are at 2.42, so I don't think you're going to have a site that's going to reach that in your university studies, so you don't have to worry about that. And if you did have that, you would probably have to download specific tiles. Tiles are these things here, and you just add onto the file with the tiles. You can obviously, there are other things you can download here. You can download just the water networks or the highways. There are backdrop mappings. There are land and height data. So if you were to build a 3D terrain, for example, you might be using these condor maps for the area. If you wanted to have vector data or a boundary and location, there's a lot of different things you can have. Building heights, so building heights are very important. You can build a 3D map of all the site, with the different building heights that it gives you. But the one that we're really interested in, and the most standard one, let's say, is the topography map. So if we just select that and we press here, it even gives us some information about it. The allowance and how it's going to look, and whether it's available, the version, again, the size of it, so on and so forth. So are we happy with that? Yes, we are happy with that. So we just add to basket. Now here it will ask us what format do you want, and also you can have versions. You can backtrack it a little bit if you want to see the difference between the different versions. But let's say the version that we want, the format that we want, is DWG. DWG is essentially the AutoCAD file format. This basically says that I want to download it as an AutoCAD file format in order to be able to draw on it on AutoCAD. There's a theme. We just want the standard one. So the difference between the standard and the plan one. The standard one has, as we've seen previously, those orange hatchings on the buildings and so on and so forth. The plan doesn't have any hatchings, it's just the outlines. I think you can turn off the things that you don't want, if you don't want the hatchings in your DWG drawing, so there's no reason why not to have it, other than if you want to make it faster. So the plan might be like if you have a really big area, a lot of hatchings might cause issues to your computer if it's not fast enough. So standard is usually the one you do for your site, but if you want to go for plan, you can also do that. There are different layers you can switch off. Let's say if you don't want any of the building layers or any of the land layers and so on and so forth, you can switch them off here, so you don't have to import them or manually switch them off in DWG. But on AutoCAD, you can switch these layers off regardless. So you might as well download everything so you have it in case you need it. So yeah, I'm happy with that. So this is what I want. You can give this download a name and so on and so forth. You can add more data. You can clear your basket. Add more data just basically means you want to add different maps to, if I wanted to add more data, and then I wanted to add building heights for this as well, and so on and so forth, I can do that. But what I'm interested in is just a topography map that I can work on in AutoCAD. So once I have that right there, I can just press on request download. And it says, thank you for submitting your order. An email will be sent to confirm it has been received. A further email will be sent once the order is ready for download. So you can see here, it says your download notifications will be sent to this email address, and change email address. You can put your private, it doesn't have to be the university address if they want to, but once it's ready, it will send you an email, and then you can press on it and download the map. And once you download the map, you are ready to use it. So that is everything we need to do on the OS data download. But there's more things that we want to do on Digimap. So there's more things that we can do that's going to help us with our studies, especially with our site analysis studies. And I'll show you right now. So let's go. We went back to the home page. And, we're here at the home page. There's a lot of other maps you can do. Environmental maps, LiDAR maps. LiDAR is essentially just something that's used in automation vehicles to read roads and so on and so forth. There's a lot of other maps as well, aerial maps. But one that you will be very interested in is the historic maps. Now, what are the historic maps? So Digimap has a source library of various historical maps of the area that you choose. Now, what does that mean? What do you mean by historic maps? Historic maps are maps that are backdated, and they go further back, and you can basically put backdated maps alongside each other in your portfolios or as part of your site analysis in order to understand the progression of the site and its surrounding context. So you can get an idea of what existed there before, or what exists around the context, what was removed, what's new build, and so on and so forth. So historic maps are very important, and you will be using them as part of your site analysis in many ways. So if we go into historic Rome again to start with, this is very similar to what we did before, except the main difference is if we go into again F156BR and we search that, we get the university site. There are no historic maps at this level, so let's zoom out a little bit. Let's see if we can load it. So there you go. So we're happy with that. As you zoom out, it will basically identify what maps it has. If we zoom in more, you see that either some of them become unavailable. There's an 1890s map that's unavailable in that part. 1920s map. There you go. So we can look how the university was. That's All Saints Park here, and there used to be a road where the going through where the Benzi building is right now. So this is very interesting stuff to understand. As All Saints Library and so forth has changed quite a bit since the 1920s. I would assume so. If you go more recently in the 1970s. We can't load that many, maybe 1960s. Yeah, we can see some things. Still. The traffic building hasn't been built. If we zoom out a little bit more, we might be able to get a fuller picture. There we go. In 1980s. So yeah, again, there we go. That's the site. Oh, there we go. Now it seems to have been built there. Can you see it? 1980s. So we've tracked when this has been built based on the maps. Now we can download that by pretty much the same way as you would download anything else. You can either print it off as it is here. As a historic map, we don't really want to be downloading the data as a DWG, because in a lot of cases it's not really available as a DWG. It's just an image they have. So we can say, oh, the 1980s map, right? 1980s, perfect. We can once again go into our drawing tools if we want to draw around our site, which is here. We can zoom in for that if the map allows us. If we find a map that's where we go. Let's see. I would say that's our site. And double click there, perfect. And we just zoom out, and we go back to a 1980s map. The drawing still stays there, so you can flip through different maps in the 1920s, 1980s, and you can basically keep that in mind, that is our site. And then what you can do is, if you go here, that's our old university site, that's what we did before, we can save the 1980s map and go, okay, we'll save that map and go Unisite 1980s and save it. And we'll switch to the 1920s and go, all right, we'll save that as our Unisite the 1920s. And we save that. Perfect, so that is saved. Now every time I press on the 1980s and replace drawings, I'll switch to that. Even if I zoom out or go anywhere else, we can even do a 1950s if it's available. Yeah, there we go. So we save that. Go into a 1950s. Well, actually, let's fully name it as Unisite 1950s, and we save it. So what have we done now? Well, if we start from the 1920s, we can look at how the site was. 1950s, look at how the site was, and 1980s, and how the site was in the context, how it changes, which is great. But now we want to download it. We want to have it. We can print it, of course. Yes, there we go. Generate a print file. And in this case, we go into the layout. We can see that, maybe it's not going to fit the whole thing. You can see there on an A2. That's how big it's going to be on an A2. Are we happy with that? Maybe we want it a little bit smaller. We want an A3. Also not really loading up. My internet connection might not be perfect for this. Let's leave it at an A2 for now. Let's see, yeah, okay, perfect. So this is an A2, and we have our map title as what, the 1980s map, right? 1980s, yeah. So Unisite 1980s. Ooh. There we go. So we include our name, drawings, so on and so forth. You may not want to include your name if you don't want to, it's not a problem. Generate print file. Generate a print file. And it's generating. It's going to ask us to be saved again. Once it generates, but there's a lot of information, obviously. It might be a big file, because it's a huge PDF file. You can save it as a JPEG or anything that you want. And once this gets generated, we can open it up, and then we'll have a 1980s map. We can do the same thing for the 1950s and the 1920s. Maybe A2 was a little bit too big of an area. It might take a little bit of a while. So we'll let that sort of work itself out, and we'll come back to it. So there we go. It's generated it. It's downloaded it here. It wasn't that huge, but still had issues downloading it for whatever reason. But there we go. This is our Unisite 1980s. And we can see that our site is right there, indicated by the border that we had. We can make it a thicker border, different color, and so on and so forth. See how the city center changed. And we can do the same thing for the other two sites, 1950s and 1920s. You can also go the download route. So if we're going to use this area for data download, for example, and we press on it, again, it brings us back to here, and we can have the different country series. So we can download all the things that we have. So 1853 to 1951, anything that it has around that area at a specific scale. You can see there the scale that it has and the size that you can download. And then there's other maps. There's are different maps that have been called upon to be surveyed. So there's a national grid maps. There's a town plans between these areas, these times. So you can see how the national grid plans have sort of started around about after World War II, or slightly during World War II and onwards. Well, you have the town plans and country series are before that. Different maps are used for different reasons, but this is basically your library, let's call it, of maps that you can look back at and do some studies. And you can select the different editions. Let's say we want to select that one, and then we're going to add it to the basket. You can add more, and so on and so forth. The formats we want to be able to change. In this case, is the TIFF format, which is absolutely fine. And then you can just request download again and download that particular piece of information. So it will be the first edition maps between that 1943 and 1993. It will give you, if it has, it will give you a range of maps that it has between those areas. So you can have, I would go for the revised editions, which are a little bit later down the line, because the revised editions are probably better and have more information rather than the first editions. So yes, that is essentially everything that you can do on Digimaps. Well, not everything. There's obviously more. So if we go back into the homepage, you can see that there's a lot more maps that you can use, but the main ones that you'll be using is these ones. You can even go into the aerial maps, for example, and aerial maps are very, very nice if you're looking into 15.6pr again. If you're looking to sort of like a Google Earth type thing, and you want to have a sort of new view of the area, it's actually really, really good to do that as well. You can even draw on it. You can even use it as part of your renders. You change, let's say, this part of the site with your building on how it would look from the top, and so on and so forth. And it's the same. It's the same thing again. You can use your drawing tools to draw on it, and then you can generate a print file, or you can use the data download, where you can go, okay, so what's the latest one, high resolution, and then there's different aerials available at different dates. So you can even do historical tracing, not as far back as the 1900s and so on and so forth, but not 100-year-old historical survey, but you can do the last 20 years. We've seen here. You can select the ones that you want and so on and so forth. So and download them. Same process as before. You just select the map that you want. It does not have any data, so there you go. That one doesn't have any data associated with it. But there is a, so you can see here, 2 out of 10 tiles. Well, these ones has it's got one from 2009, which is fine, and there's another one from 2015, and this one is the high resolution one, which I'm assuming is probably an earlier date. So these are the ones that we're interested in, and we add them to basket. So there you go. I've got 3 things. It's a JPEG format, and we request to download, and we've got them. An email will be sent with the download link and so on and so forth once it's approved. Sometimes it might take them a bit of time in order to download these things and send you a link, purely because it depends on how many people are requesting, or if you're a new account, it might take a little bit longer to approve you before it becomes an automatic thing. But other than that, yeah, it should be. This is how you would use Digimaps, and that is how you get the information that you require from Digimaps in order to do the work asked for you by the university, which is essentially one is to have a reference point so you can draw from, the street and so on and so forth, and then specific outputs like figure ground drawings or location plans of 1 to 2,500, sorry, one. Well, either that or 1 to 1,000, 1 to 1,250. So yeah, different sizes. You can either, as I said, download them as DWGs from your OS data, or you can just do it like that. But you just download it straight from the website as a PDF, and you can just put it in your portfolio. But the issue with that is you don't allow for any kind of intervention into the drawing unless you do it on Photoshop, which is not the right way to do it. You have to run it through AutoCAD to be more precise as the placing and so on and so forth. So thank you very much, guys, and we will see you at the next one.